Welcome, everyone. We're delighted to see you here today. I'm Alice Hausman. I co-chair the Nonprofit Liaison Committee with Denise Horan for Impact 100 Philadelphia. This is our first time doing this information session as a webinar, so we ask for your patience. You can place questions in the Q&A section at any time, and we'll get to as many of them as we can at the end of the presentation. We've left a lot of time for questions, so we should be able to answer a lot of them. If you came prepared with some questions, go ahead and enter them now. Also, our contact information is here. Our email, nonprofitliaison@impact100philadelphia.org, is here, and it will be again at the end of the session. So feel free to send us any questions to that email. Also, this program is being recorded, so you can access it later, and it can be shared with people who can't be here. Here's the plan for this afternoon. Our goal is to provide you with information about our organization, the type of grants we award, what we're looking for in the application, and the application process itself. Joining us today are Renee Applegate, co-chair for the Grants Committee for Impact 100, and Beth Dolly, who is a co-founder of the Impact 100 Philadelphia. We're also, Renee is going to be speaking about the application and selection process, and Beth will address the financial considerations. We're grateful to have with us Meg MacCurtin, Executive Director of Greener Partners, who was a 2020 awardee. She'll provide the applicant and recipient perspective. For those of you who are less familiar with Impact 100 Philadelphia, here's a summary of our mission and goals: to engage women in philanthropy and collectively fund high-impact grants that address unmet needs in the Philadelphia region and raise the profile of smaller nonprofit organizations. Through this work, our goal is to make our community more just, equitable, and healthy for everyone. Our model of collective giving is very simple, but we believe very powerful and benefits both members and the nonprofit community. By pooling contributions, members leverage their donations to make high-impact grants of $100,000 to smaller nonprofits in our funding area. As you'll hear more about in a bit, member-run committees review the grant applications, perform site visits, and select finalists. Traditionally, finalists are invited to our annual meeting to present their case for their proposal, and there all the members vote for the size of the grant to be awarded. Our members vote, and we award as many $100,000 core mission grants as we can. The remainder of the funds are given to finalists in the form of smaller grants. But it's important to remember that all applications are for $100,000 core mission grants. You can't apply for smaller amounts. Last year, because everything was virtual, voting occurred before the annual meeting. Members received extensive packets on the finalists to review before voting online from home. Given the situation with the pandemic, we expect that the 2021 final voting and annual meeting will be like last year. This is a snapshot of our membership history. Since our founding year in 2008, Impact 100 Philadelphia has awarded grants totaling over $3.6 million to 55 local nonprofits. This includes 28 high-impact grants of $100,000. Because of the size of the 2020 grant pool, for the first time in our history, we were able to award a 6th grant. We'll know the total funding available for this year by mid-December. Here's who we funded last year. I'm going to spend the next few minutes helping you to understand our grants, what we value and support. Let's start with what Impact 100 grants will pay for. Programs or services, administration, including staff salaries, infrastructure such as building or facilities improvement. We're less interested in the specific expenditures than about the why of your proposing them. The key thing that your proposal needs to explain is, how will an impact grant strengthen and have a high impact on your organization? Importantly, your proposal should answer the why now. Why will our $100,000 grant propel you forward at this time? Our teams may be reviewing upwards of 25 proposals. So one of the things that differentiates a proposal is the why now. What is happening now that additional funding of $100,000 will impact? What difference will it make to the groups that you support? Impact 100 grants will not fund debt reduction, operating deficits, interim or bridge funding, or endowment funding. We don't fund individuals or private foundations. We don't fund activities that are religious or political in nature. Now, we will fund religious organizations, just not religious activities. We also will not fund fund drives, annual appeals, fundraising events, or general capital campaigns. This slide reviews eligibility requirements, all of which can be found by clicking on the Apply for a Grant tab on our website. You must meet all 4 of the eligibility criteria to qualify for a grant. Have 501c3 status, maintain a physical base of operation in the 5-county Philadelphia region, submit a full 3 years of audited or independently reviewed financial statements. A partial year does not qualify. Your organization cannot have been a recipient of a $100,000 core mission grant within the last 3 grant cycles. If your organization received one of the smaller grants within that time period, you may apply for the $100,000 grant. Again, if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A section. And now I would like to turn the program over to Renee Applegate, Grants Co-Chair, who will walk you through the application process.
Thank you, Alice. I'm happy to be with you today to explain the grants process in a little more detail. So the way our process works is we have 5 focus areas, and when you apply, when you submit an LOI, you submit it to one of these 5 focus areas. They are defined as follows. Arts and culture is cultural programs, participation in the arts, and arts education. Education includes educational opportunities for children or adults. Environment is defined as improvement, preservation, revitalization, or awareness of public spaces, facilities, or natural resources. The family FAC is for organizations that are focused on strengthening and enhancing the lives of children and families, including seniors. And health and wellness is the improvement of people's mental and or physical well-being. It's important to note that our readers and our proposals change every year, so don't assume that our readers know you, your clients, or your space, and take care to explain that in your application. So in addition to the eligibility criteria that Alice went over, which are requirements to be eligible for one of our grants, we also have a number of funding preferences. These are not requirements, and organizations that do not meet all of them, or frankly, any of them, are still eligible to receive funding, but each of these items should be considered a plus in favor of the applicant. Our members refer to this list throughout the process when they're evaluating LOIs and full proposals and consider the information that they learn on site visits. So first, we believe that our funding sweet spot is organizations with an annual budget between $500,000 and $5 million. Generally, organizations of this size that are properly managed are well positioned to handle a grant of $100,000 and yet are small enough that $100,000 can make a meaningful difference for the organization. We look to fund organizations that have programs or services that target underserved populations. Applicants have the opportunity in our LOI and full proposal to describe to us the recipients of their services and why they are underserved or how they are underserved. This year, we have a new funding preference, and that is for organizations that are led by a staff and board that reflect the diversity of the populations that they serve. To go along with that, we have added questions to our LOI and full proposal requesting demographic information about the board and leadership. And in addition, we have a question that invites you to describe any steps that your organization may be taking to move in the direction of having a more representative leadership team. We recognize that it is a process. Finally, Our goal is for our grants to help highlight unmet needs in the region and have a high impact on beneficiaries or communities. This is why we ask the question, why now, that Alice discussed earlier. Why will a grant from us be particularly significant now to your organization, your beneficiaries, and the community you serve? If you would like to apply for an impact grant, our website will be a very important resource for you. We have an apply for a grant tab that includes our eligibility criteria, a description of our process, important dates, and includes some frequently asked questions. Most, if not all, of the information that we're sharing with you today is also available there. The website also has links to our letter of inquiry, and later in our process, our full proposal, which can be completed through SlideRoom. Just a couple of changes that we've made to our proposal this year. Instead of asking for a formal line item budget, we've eliminated that requirement. You don't need to explain to us how you would spend the $100,000. Instead, we're going to focus on how your answers to the questions about how our grant can promote the mission of your organization and move it forward. And as I mentioned previously, we are going to ask for some demographic information about your board and leadership. This is an overview of how applicants move through our proposal review process. Nonprofits begin by submitting an LOI to one of our 5 focus areas. Impact committees review all of the LOIs and invite certain selected organizations to submit a full proposal, select some for site visits, and then each focus area selects one finalist. Our grants calendar has not changed significantly over the last several years. This year, we will be conducting virtual site visits. If your organization is scheduled for a site visit, someone from the team who's in charge of the site visit will reach out to you with all the information that you will need to prepare and schedule the site visit. Although we will be meeting over video, the goal of our site visits will be the same as it always is, which is to give you an opportunity to provide our members with a more complete picture of your organization and the work that you do. So here are some key dates for the upcoming grant cycle. The dates that are highlighted in red are those that are most important to our applicants. Our online LOI letter of inquiry application opens today, and we will remain open until December 11th. In mid-December, we announce our funding total, and that amount determines the number of grants and the size of grants we will be awarding in June. In the last several years, our grant pool has been large enough to allow us to provide grants to all 5 of our focus area finalists. On January 15th, we will notify all applicants who submitted an LOI whether they will be invited to submit a full proposal. Typically, we invite approximately 15 organizations per FAC to submit a full proposal, but we don't have a strict limit or quota. It's generally based on the strength of the LOIs. For those organizations who are invited to submit a full proposal, those will be due on February 4th. And then we conduct site visits from mid-March through April. And as I noted, we're going to do that virtually this year. And in mid-May, we notify our focus area finalists and award our grants at our annual meeting, which this year will be on June 7th, 2021. For questions regarding the application process, the nonprofit liaison email is up there. It is also on our website. And we strive to be clear and communicative with our applicants. So we provide notifications at each of these stages of the grants process, whether you're invited to submit a full proposal or not, if you were selected for a site visit, and whether you've been selected as a finalist. You might receive some additional requests for information at different stages of the process. And you might be contacted by someone from our financial review panel or a focus area committee chairs using their individual emails. So just be on the lookout for that. We will ask them to flag those emails so that they stand out to you. But if we don't hear back from you, we will follow up. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Beth Dolly, who is one of the co-founders of Impact 100, who is going to go over some of the financial requirements in our application process.
Well, thanks, Renee, and hi, everybody. I need the next slide. There we go. Hi, everybody. So at the letter of inquiry stage, we do not require you to submit financial documents to Impact 100. However, we do want to give you a heads up that if you are invited to submit a full proposal, we will ask for some financial information, which will include an income statement for the most recently completed fiscal year, including the projected budget tracked against the actual budget. We'll ask for a year-to-date interim statement for your current fiscal year. We will ask for independently prepared financial statements, either audit or review are acceptable. And I also want to note that we do recognize that many organizations here in Philadelphia might be chapters or local affiliates of national organizations, and you might only have an audit or a review or a 990 from the national organization, but we are going to need some type of internally prepared or documentation that shows your local revenue and expenses, including an interim statement for the current fiscal year. And also, should you be in that situation and be invited to submit a full proposal, we will provide an organizational summary spreadsheet for you to complete. Renee's already said we won't ask for line items, but for you to identify financials for the last 3 fiscal years. Now it is going to be my pleasure to introduce Meg MacCurtin. Meg is one of our grantees from 2020. She is Executive Director of Greener Partners, an organization that has grown from a single school garden at Girard College in Philadelphia to programs in schools and hospitals that impact over 10,000 youth and families annually. Meg has been vital to guiding the development of Greener Partners' signature farm-to-school program, the Farm Explorer, as well as the development of the organization's first hospital farm, the Deaver Wellness Farm, in collaboration with Lankenau Medical Center. Meg is honored and excited to share Greener Partners' experiences with Impact 100 with you this afternoon. So I introduce Meg MacCurtin.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Beth. Hello, and again, I'm excited to be here today as a 2020 Impact 100 grantee and to share my experiences with you. So Greener Partners, as Beth said, is an urban farming and food education nonprofit that works primarily in schools and hospitals. We were founded in 2009, and early in our history as a nonprofit, we learned about Impact 100, and we came to greatly admire the Impact's collective giving model and Impact's range of funding interests and priorities. And we had early on the conviction that Greener Partners and our work and our mission is a strong fit for Impact 100. Our work, Greener Partners' work, aligns with 3 of Impact 100's focus areas: health and wellness, education, and environment. And since 2014, we have submitted proposals in each of those 3 focus areas. It took us a while, I'd say, to really determine the best fit and how to best position our application and how to position it most strongly. In 2019, we applied in the health and wellness category, and we were fortunate to be able to submit a full proposal and to be invited to the site visit stage, which was a highly rewarding experience. But ultimately, our application wasn't as strongly positioned as it could have been. And I believe that was because we were probably not in the best category for us. So for our 2020 proposal, we determined that environment was really our strongest category because it allowed us to truly highlight and focus on our differentiator as a nonprofit that works to address an unjust food system. And that differentiator is that we are a team of urban farmers, and everything we do is through the lens of urban farmers and farmers who are deeply connected to food, where food comes from, the power of growing your own food, and what it means to store the land in your own community. And that was what we highlighted in our application, our unique perspective as urban farmers, working with people to grow their own food, and especially in light of the pandemic, how supporting community-informed efforts to transform school and community spaces into gardens creates lasting fresh food resources. So just want to comment briefly before I wrap up and just say that the grant making process with Impact 100 is very thoughtful. As you heard, the many steps, the many people involved, and it's very respectful, I would say. And the reason I think respectful comes to mind is because the committee members, the various Impact 100 committee members really get to know your organization. They're diligent, they're thorough, and truly invested. And that really shows in their communications and throughout. They have a really well thought out communication process. So, so members of Impact 100 are assigned to your proposal. And when you're able to, if you're fortunate enough to be able to advance to the site visit stage, there's just regular communication with regular updates and regular check-ins. Finally, I just want to end by acknowledging just how flexible Impact 100 was this year. Early on, recognizing the risks involved with the site visit at the onset of the pandemic. So that would have been in March when our site visit was being planned, and giving applicants the opportunity to share in writing how our work was pivoting due to the pandemic. And ultimately, when we were awarded the grant, allowing us to use the funds to support general operations. With that, I want to say thank you. Again, I'm happy to be here, happy to share our experience, and I will turn it back to Denise at Impact.
Thank you, Meg. It's wonderful to hear how Impact 100's grant has helped you with your mission. We will now open for questions. It looks like we have a number of them, almost 30, so please bear with us. If you know to whom you'd like to address your question, please let us know that in the Q&A, which is at the bottom of your screen. You should see that down there. And we will go through. I may combine a few questions. I noticed there were a few in there about the budget. If we don't answer all of your questions by the end, we do have the email address that you can email us afterwards. So the first question is for Renee. Do you use a weighted point system when reviewing the grants at each level? And is the weighted system available for review?
We don't have a formalized weighted system, I would say. The way we normally look at our grants, our applications, is we first determine whether they meet the eligibility criteria. And then once they meet the eligibility criteria, our members, consider the application, consider the strength of the organization and its leadership and its mission, and look at our funding preferences. A lot of the discussion comes down to the why now question. Do we really think that this is a good time for this organization to receive a grant? Will it propel it forward in some way? And also we consider the fit of the applicant with the focus area. That's another thing that I would say you should think about when you're submitting your LOI. But we don't have, there's not an official 1 to 10 points for this, 1 to 10 points for that.
Thank you. And Beth, this one is for you. When you say you fund infrastructure improvements, does this include capital projects?
That's a great question. Yes, it does include capital projects. So if you want to, expand your facilities or build a building or acquire a van, yes, we will accept applications, requests for those kinds of uses.
Thank you. This next one is about the budget, and I'm going to combine a few of these questions together. The question is, what is a small nonprofit? And as discussed during the presentation, our sweet spot is between 500,000 and 5 million. However, we will accept organizations as low or as high as you want to go. Just know that the most fall within those areas. Anyone else on the panel want to add to that? And please feel free as I go at the panel to include any additional information that I leave out or to add more.
Denise, I'll just jump in really quick. I was scanning through the questions and I saw someone specifically with respect to the size was asking, are you looking just at the last year's budget when you're considering the size? We ask for your we ask for your financials for a few years, for your budget for a few years. So we look at that. It's not, as Denise said, 500 is not a requirement, it's a preference. And certainly, even an organization that was, 450, 475, that we're going to kind of consider that to be in the ballpark of what we're looking at. It's not a hard and fast rule.
Thank you, Renee. And Beth, this one is for you. They want clarity on what is counted as political in applications. Does it specifically refer to political campaigns, or is it more broad?
Well, we won't accept applications that are espousing any specific, political belief. I don't know, does that help?
Thank
You
you.
asked the question. I don't know if that helped.
Thank you. Next question, and I will answer this one. It's about no fiscal sponsorship is allowed unless you're a local chapter of a national organization. No, most organizations that apply are locally based organizations within the five county Philadelphia area. However, we will allow local chapters of national organizations, as Beth mentioned earlier, as long as there is independent financials.
Can I jump in there 1 second, Denise? So that would also apply to, you could be locally based and use another organization for your fiscal sponsor. Say you're, under, Urban Affairs Coalition, or you have a program housed at one of the universities where you rely on, Penn or Temple's 501c3. You don't have to be a national organization, but yes, we would need to know what your own budget is and own internally prepared financial statements for your program if you're housed someplace else.
Great, thank you. And Renee, the next one is yours. If the nonprofit has been operational for less than 3 years, are you ineligible to apply?
Yes, that is basically what it comes down to. We want 3 years of financials. And so if you've been in operation less than that, that's something you can't provide, and that's a requirement.
Thank you. One of the questions is about the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint, the whole presentation will be available online after we finish here, and it will be on our website. Let me see, there are a couple more about budget. I believe that I covered those. If not, please let us know. Can a chapter office, oh, I'm sorry, these are moving, so I apologize. Can a chapter office that operates programs and activities within the 5-county region, even though as part of a national nonprofit? I think, Beth, that would go to your answer, correct?
Well, I don't know. There's no pride of authorship here, so anybody else jump in. You need to be, your local operation needs to meet our eligibility requirements. So you would need to be able to produce, a P&L here locally. You should be, providing services here locally. If you are just an extension of the national, providing a program but don't have local operation, a local board, you probably reach out to us independently so we can learn more. Renee, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Oh, that's great.
Thank you. The next question is how many LOIs we usually received. Last year, we received a little over 200 across our 5 FACs. I think that was a little bit of more than we typically get, but we've been around that. If anyone else would like to jump in. Okay. This is a little bit of a specific one, and I don't know whether this would be Renee or Beth. Do you require audits for the 3 most recent fiscal years, i.e., if our fiscal year ends at the end of June, do we have to have our fiscal year 20 audit available, or would it be 19, 18, 17 audits suffice?
Those 3 most recent, recently completed, and then we would want an interim statement for your current fiscal year. So for July 1, 2020 to June 30, 21, when you apply, we'll just need an interim for that period of time.
Thank you. And this is somewhat related. Would it be acceptable to submit reviewed financial statements for previous years under a fiscal sponsor if we are currently a separate 501c3 at the time of application?
Yes, I mean, submit whatever financial statements you have for the 3 most recent years and whatever you have currently.
Great, thank you. Is education limited to K-12 and higher, or would early learning? We're pretty flexible about education. Anything that is relaying information, educating an audience, it doesn't have to be a specific audience, is typically reviewed under our education area. And Renee, I don't know if you'd like to add to that.
No, I agree. I mean, education for all ages. There's no limits there.
Great, thank you. If the chapter office is solely responsible for programs and activities for the 5-county region that is within the budget requirements, but it's part of a larger nonprofit, can it still apply? As long as you have your own financial information that we can review, correct? Yeah, okay. Does the 500 budget need to be in place for 3 years of audited tax years, or can it be the last current year? We do not have a minimum or a maximum on our budgets. So as long as you have 3 years of audited information and are around that area, you should be fine. Core mission grants, which have shifted from project grants in the past, may be used for programs, services, necessary infrastructure. Yes. However, using $200,000 in 2 years for a core mission grant is most likely linked to a project, at least for our organization. That said, there isn't much space to discuss that project in the application. How can we communicate that? Renee, I think that might be a question for you.
No, I'm blanking right now on the specific questions, and I would say do your best to describe what you do, what you plan to do. And, you know, we don't require, as I said, a budget anymore of how exactly you plan to spend this grant, but you can certainly tell us if there is a compelling program that you are, you know, looking to start or expand. I think you should be able to fit that into the general questions we ask about your organization. The why now might be an excellent place to put that. You know, why is this a good time for your organization to receive this grant? An excellent answer might be because we are launching this program and we think it's going to be transformative to the work that we do. And you can describe it there.
Thank you. How do you define core mission grant? Alice, that might be a good one for you.
Well, I think as you've heard, the theme is really how will the money propel your organization forward? How does it help you achieve your mission? And how will it help you really maybe shift to the next level of impact? So it really is, it's a little squishy, but that is the challenge of these proposals, is to make the case for how the funding will really have an impact on your organization and subsequently the people that or organizations that you serve.
Thank you. I think these are really 2 separate issues. One, in general, character limits are really low. So I'm assuming that's in reference to the information that you enter. What are you basing your decisions on for who moves forward? So we talked about the LOI process, and that is one of the first areas. And what we're looking for is what your mission is and how it matches to our mission and priorities. Renee or anyone, would you like to add to that?
Well, I mean, we reduced the character limits a few years ago because we found that a lot of the application, I think we were asking people to provide so much information that they were just repeating the same things over and over again. Denise is right. What we're really interested in is, what do you do? Why do you do it? Describe to us, you know, the strength of your leadership and organization, and that particularly, you know, at the early stage is something that we're going to make a decision about whether we would like to learn more. And I think that's how you should think about the LOI is, you know, we're trying to decide if we want to learn more about your organization, if we think you might be a good fit for our grant.
Thank you. And I think the why now, which we've referenced a couple times, is a very important question to answer and one that we view quite a lot during our meetings. Can an organization submit more than one LOI? It cannot. So you decide which of the 5 FACs that you want to apply in, and then we will review it, but we cannot have more than one application from the same organization. An ED thought she heard that smaller discretionary grants would be awarded this year. News travels quickly. Based on what I've learned from your presentation already, Renee, would you like to take that one?
Yes. So the word is out. We are starting a new program this year that is going to run in parallel to our regular grant program, which is what we've described here. The new program is called Community Awards. And the reason we haven't highlighted them is not because they're a secret, but because we are not asking for organizations to apply. They are going to be awarded by a committee of experienced members who are going to do their own research, look at the landscape of nonprofits, think about organizations that might be a good fit. They're going to be smaller grants ranging in size from $5,000 to $25,000. So there isn't really anything for you to do, but we are starting this program this year. We're very excited about it. It's going to allow us to provide funding to more organizations, which is something that our members have been wanting to do. And there will be more information about it in our communications going forward, but there's nothing for you to do right now.
Thank you, Renee. And I think this also is one for you. Do you receive most LOIs in any of the 5 categories, or are they usually spread relatively evenly?
They're usually fairly even. In certain years, we might have spikes in certain focus areas. I would say we generally receive the fewest in environment. I think that's just because of the landscape that we're looking at and the types of organizations that are out there. But as for the others, it's usually fairly even.
Thank you. And I'll put this out to the panelists in general. Regarding the community awards, are these grants awarded from among the applicants for the core mission grants? Anyone like to take that?
No, it is awarded to the organizations that our committee is going to identify. If you apply for a core mission grant, that does not take you out of that possible pool, but it is not a requirement that you have applied for one of our core mission grants to be in that pool. So, if you are interested in a core mission grant, please don't let just please apply for that. And our committee is going to, like I said, take a look at the landscape of organizations and think about who might be a good fit for the community awards.
And panelists, please correct me here, but I think since the community award is still in development, that we should limit our questions to that at this point, and strictly look at the application process that we're talking about among the 5 FACs. Agreed? Okay. Thank you, though, and we're very excited to be able to offer this, and you'll hear more about it going forward. Can 2 nonprofit organizations collaboratively submit one proposal? Yes, and that's very exciting. We do take joint proposals, and there's really no limit on that. It can be as many groups as you want working together. What needs to happen is one of the organization needs to be the lead and apply under their auspices. Any additional comments, panelists? No, thank you. What is the time frame or period the grant proposal should cover? i.e., when should the program or initiative begin and end? Renee?
So there isn't a requirement that you provide us with a specific program or initiative. If you receive a core mission grant or an operating grant, that funding can go to support your organization in whichever way you think is most effective. So it does not have to be a program or initiative. The grants are typically paid out over a period of 24 months. So that is the timing issue. But if you if you use it to fund a program, the program does not have to coincide with that 24 months.
Thank you. We've had a lot of good questions today, and this is another very good one, Beth, that will be for you. Are budgets total for the year based on original or revised amounts based on COVID-19?
Well, we'd want to know what your budget is now. Again, there's no, hard and fast requirement for our budget size. We have kind of a preference or a sweet spot. So it's understandable that with COVID and implications, your current year budget might not look like it looked, last year or the year before. That's one of the reasons we asked for a few years of information, a few years of statements. If you have any, additional questions or want to talk, specifically about your circumstances, you can reach out to us directly.
Thank you. Someone's wondering if this can be an existing program or does it need to be new? It does not need to be new. It can be anything that you're working on that's going to help your audience and that you think is going to be important. If you're a small organization that is very different from but connected to a larger local organization, would the small organization be able to be funded? Let me read that again because I'm not sure I understand it. If you are a small organization that is very different from but connected to a larger local organization, would the small organization be able to be funded? Beth or Renee?
I'm going to jump in there. So without, knowing who's who, it's hard to say. But again, we look at the local organization on paper would have to meet the eligibility requirements we have for standalone organizations. It doesn't really matter what your relationship to that larger organization, as long as you can produce the financial statements we want and you can assure us that the programs that you're offering are benefiting, that you're located here and that the services and programs you're providing are benefiting local community residents in our geographic reach.
And local organizations with fiscal sponsors. Beth, I think this falls right there.
Oh my gosh, hi Hillary Kane. I know you well. Yes, we will accept local organizations with local fiscal sponsors as applicants.
Thank you. We have, are you willing to discuss focus area or organization prior to applying? We've applied in both family because we are senior focused in health and wellness, but have gotten further as a finalist in health and wellness, and just to want to confirm we are writing in the correct focus area. I'll answer this first, but Meg, if you can add on with your experience, I think that would be powerful. We cannot help guide you to a specific focus area. That's really incumbent upon you to understand or help tell us which would be the most beneficial or which would be most applicable for you. But I think as we heard from Meg, there are different ways to go. So Meg, your thoughts here, please.
Sure, I would add that I think for a lot of organizations, you could potentially find yourself in a couple of the different focus areas, such as Greener Partners. But what we really looked at is our unique differentiator, what really sets us apart in our approach and the way we work, and really building from there. So I think if you can, that's what you want to focus on to strengthen your application and make it be the best it can be.
Thank you. Is the grant period for 12 months? That's an interesting one, and correct me here, panelists. It can be for 12 or 24 months. We pay out across either of those timeframes. Okay. Are audits required for the LOI or the full proposal? Our fiscal year also ends June 30th, so we may not have the audit completed by 12/11. Beth, please.
Yeah, you could submit to us the most recent statements or 990s that you have. Even once the LOI comes in, by the time the full proposal comes in, you might have more. After the site visit, you have more, but whatever you have at the time that you apply is fine.
Thank you. Our current program service delivery is very different during COVID. However, in an ideal future, we will return to our normal services. Our application could reflect COVID programs as well as the desired normal future. However, should COVID persist, how would Impact 100 be flexible with applications because of so many unknown variables for nonprofits? Renee, please.
Well, I think that we definitely want to be flexible. And that was something that we realized last year when COVID struck and a lot of our applicants were pivoting and trying to figure out how to deliver their programs in the most effective way with all of the new restrictions. We don't ask you to commit to a specific program or initiative that we will be funding. We want to hear about your organization. We want to hear about the kind of work that you do and see evidence of your effectiveness in it. I don't think you need to, so if you were to get a grant, you could spend it on whatever seemed appropriate at the time. It would allow you to pivot. It would allow you to address changing circumstances. You wouldn't have to commit to a specific program.
Thank you. Alice, this one will be for you. You said the board and staff should reflect the demographics of the population we serve. How important is this? We serve children with a low incidence disability that our board and staff mostly do not have. Thanks.
Well, that's a very good question. We are looking for as much representation in the board as we can. I think that so that we feel the organization reflects the population that it serves. Do the best you can. We allow you to describe qualitatively how you address representation of your board and connection of your board to the population that you serve.
Thank you. Will there always be at least one grant awarded in each of the 5 categories? Yes, there will be. And for the why now question, is it acceptable to discuss the financial impact COVID has had on our organization? Absolutely. The one thing that you might want to think about is that many of the organizations that will be applying will be impacted or have been impacted by COVID. So what we're looking for is what's differentiating your organization from the others and the good work that everyone is doing. So that's just one of the things you may want to think about in that. Renee, anything else? Okay, thank you. We are a small organization that is not required under PA law to get an audit or review of financial statements due to the size of our budget. Are we eligible to apply? In these situations, we usually submit a letter explaining this and include internally prepared statements that have worked in the past. Beth?
I'm muted, sorry, I was muted.
Do you want me to repeat that?
No, I can see it. So you would still need to be able to provide some type of independently prepared financials. Without knowing what this organization is or how small the operating budget is, and you're not required, you might not really be in our sweet spot. I would suggest that you reach out independently after this session or anytime before the LOI is due, so we might learn a little bit more about you and your organization.
Thank you. And the next one, Beth, is for you also. What about the financials if it's a collaboration?
So we would want to see financials from both organizations.
Thank you. In terms of the grant payments, must organizations submit receipts to receive the grant payments, or are the payments released first with reports required to prompt the next payment? It's the latter. We have reports, we have grant champions who are part of our team who work with the grantees, and they work with them to first give reports on how the money has been used, and then the money is released. The first payment goes out right after our election in June, and then subsequent payments go out after the reports are received and approved internally. Meg, do you have any comments on that? The reports and the money the reports that you have to do for Impact 100 when you receive, before you receive your money?
We are just preparing the first stage of that now. So we haven't, I mean, that is coming up. I know it's upcoming in December, but at this
Yeah.
point, we haven't gone through that process yet. So
Thank you. I knew that. I shouldn't have asked that question. Can an organization applying as part of a partnership, but not as the lead, also apply independently? I don't believe so. It's one or the other. Please clarify, correct? Yes. Is it appropriate to discuss the connection to the community demographics of other leadership outside of our board members, such as partners, volunteers, and stakeholders? Alice, do you want to take that one?
I think that's an important, you're suggesting sort of demonstrating connection at all levels of your organization, and I think that's useful. We are particularly interested of leadership defined by the board and the executive staff. But the more you can tell us about how your organization represents or reflects the populations you serve, the better that is.
Thank you. And I believe that is our last question. We'll take just a minute if anyone wants to type anything in. No other open questions. Okay, thank you. We would like to thank the attendees today. We are always very humbled by the powerful work your organizations do in the region. And we appreciate your interest in Impact 100 grants. I'd also like to thank today our presenters, Alice, Renee, Beth, and Meg, and also our program chairs, Eve Prensky-Rowe and Nancy Gottlieb, who you can tell by the presentation, a lot of work has gone into this, and we thank everyone who's been part of it. We look forward to your applications, which are open now. When you go to our website, impact100.org, the ability to apply will be under Apply for a Grant on our website. This is the process, the software we're using is called SlideRoom, and you can enter your information into SlideRoom and not submit until the end. So it will keep the information and you can keep updating it until you hit submit at the end. They are due December 11th, correct? Great. And we look forward to your applications.
Wait, Denise, we have one more question.
Okay. Is it
Oh,
possible?
we have two more questions.
Is it possible to receive feedback at end of the process if not asked to move forward? Renee? I think that's your question.
Yes, if you reach out to us, we will provide you with any feedback that we have. Sometimes we have specific feedback we're able to provide, and sometimes we don't. It just might turn out that another application was more compelling for some reason, but certainly reach out to us if you would like to inquire about that.
Thank you. And the last one, or actually the second to last one, how do you define impact? Quality, quantity, or both? And do you also use financial ratios to determine impact? Renee, if you can answer that one as well.
We do not define impact. It is sort of something that our members hash out in their discussions about organizations. And some members feel that a really deep connection or service to a smaller number of clients is valuable. Some people feel that a broader reach is more valuable. I think your best bet is just to describe to us, why you feel that what your organization does is important and why it does it well, and that will make the best case for you when those discussions come up.
Thank you. Thank you again for attending today. If you have additional questions, please reach out to nonprofit liaison at impact100philly.org. And we look forward to your applications. Thank you.